This is Freedom Phil outside Survival Pod here in the wasteland. What's the topic? Sometimes when I look at what's going on over in jolly old England, as far as like the mass immigration, the slow third world colonization of England, and the constant, guilt trip that the English are forced to digest. It's like a human centipede of guilt, even though I don't think you should be apologizing, frankly. I think the English did a lot of great things for the world. Yeah, there's some bad things, but let's be real about it. Every country's done some fuck shit. But what's the plan? What's the plan with all these sub-IQ individuals? Not all, but most of these sub-IQ individuals being brought from second and third world countries, and a lot of them living on the dole. What's the plan? Yeah, where am I going with this? This is Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. Let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I always say that? Because, hey, you can watch videos faster. That's why the name is Turn Up the Video Speed. If I upload this, you watch it at 1.75. Let's get into it. Like, subscribe. It's like this. I hear these things coming out from England. The occasional SA gangs from Muzzy groups, Pakistanis, and they try to say, oh, Asian or male. And you look at the demographics and you're like, some of these people from, parts of Africa. And I could understand the idea of immigration, merit-based immigration, where like someone really does bring some genius scientists to your country. And if you actually wanted to supposedly atone for your colonialist sins, there's a lot of things you could do in second and third world countries, like, digging wells, giving solar ovens, building better technology, education, maybe stop the warlords from killing off different groups. Seems like the Muzzies like taking out the Christians on a regular basis. We can't talk about that. People talk about, GDP and all that nonsense. And I could see that making sense if these people really were filling the void. But a lot of them, once they get the ability to get on the dole, that's exactly what they do. We have the same problem in America, except for, luckily, people from South America are generally Christian. So it's not as big of an issue. Well, sort of. Now we're importing people from fucking everywhere who don't share our values, don't value our culture and our country. I think it's always funny when people come from the second or third world. At first, they're kind of like, thank you. The thank you is a guise. And then it turns into, fuck these people because, I'm told to say F you. And I'm just kind of sick of it. And I look at England and I think to myself, what's your plan? Are you just trying to dilute the English? And I got to be honest, some of the people you're bringing in are sub-IQ individuals. You're not going to get a superior society. And maybe that's all the plan. I don't remember, I've never read the book, but I think it was called A Brave New World. They had those that were specially made to rule over and those that were made to be ruled and do the menial labor. Is this kind of the in-between phase before, you just clean house? Is that what it is? I mean, maybe you get enough people over there that are committing enough essays against the English populace, causing enough problems to eventually people will accept any type of authoritarianism to clean, just as long as someone cleans up the problem. What's the plan? Because you can't tell me it's good for GDP when many of those people are just getting on the dole. Sure, they're having kids, but just like you see a lot of cases with welfare children in America, a lot of them just turn into fuck shit individuals. Like say you had like 7 kids, right? But only 2 of them were worth a shit. The rest of them are net negative for society. You're not saving GDP with that. And people talk about, maybe this is just the boomers just really proving we're going to get every last drop of blood from you before we shuffle off the mortal coil. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the last great fuck you to everyone else in the world. And as I've said before, the post-fall of the Berlin Wall pussified politics. Things have slowly gotten worse since the fall of the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall falling was a good thing. But the politicians have become, well, now that we don't have to worry about the big threat of Russia, We don't have to care about, normal strength and culture, being homogenous society, having similar values. Everybody always says diversity is our strength. No, unity is our strength. Diversity can be a good thing if you all have a bunch of good ideas and you put it together and refine a better idea, but that's not what they're talking about. They only usually have, in these countries, one idea. Push things further to the left, push things closer to socialism. Take the strong, productive people that are self-sufficient and don't need the system and try to kill them off. Because that's what it looks like to me, what you're doing to Europe. Make no mistake, Europe is always ahead of what America. It's like California is always ahead of the rest of the country. All we need to do to see what's failing is look at California, and all America needs to know what's not going to work is generally a lot of what's going on in Europe. With the exception of Poland, they seem to have their fucking act together. So I'm just asking, what's the big plan in Europe, in the UK? You water down the IQ and the genetics to the point where, you have a bunch of placid morons that are easier to control, a bunch of inbred motherfuckers. And if you think what I just said there is rude, no, seriously, look up the problems of these tribal communities in order to keep all the property in one family line, banging their cousins. Genetic diseases. Like, we have the science to do greater and superior things. Why are we going in reverse? Why are we expected to tolerate constantly going in reverse? So, like I asked, yo, Europe, yo, UK, what's your plan? We should already have colonies on Mars, making our way to, other planets. We should already be in other places. Instead, you're fighting this bullshit culture war. And I say, the people that cause problems and aren't productive, you should kick them the fuck out. All this talk about tolerance and all that shit. You know why the British Empire was the British Empire? Because they kicked ass for a long time and they weren't apologetic about it. At what point, maybe it was the end of World War II, at what point did they just go and mentally castrate the British? Because I can tell you, those that survived World War I and World War II certainly didn't have this traitorous mentality. You see this in America, too. You can see this in America. Since World War II generation has been dying off, and the few of the people that are still holding the line are like guys from Vietnam and guys that were in Desert Storm. But as the greater leftist hippie culture has slowly taken over, in every country, shit's getting worse. Technology brings us a better world, but the people are more retarded. So what's the fucking plan? Read some comments here. Oh, God, yeah, no, I think America's totally gotten soft. I actually absolutely fucking agree with that. No, there's no doubt. America, and we've actually started reversing that role in the last year. We've just got, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to just end it with this. This is why so many people put up with the nonsense. Because they're horribly in debt. And if they don't toe the line, they'll get off with your job. They get fired from their job. So the moral authoritarians, no different than the religious right back in the day, you don't do what we say, we'll ruin your life. And that's why a lot of this shit happens. If you stay debt-free, it's harder for them to control you. But I don't know. I mean, is it going to get to the point in England, like, you liked that tweet. Oh, do you have a license for that opinion? Like, Jesus fucking Christ. They spend more time harassing the English public for being dissatisfied with the problems or having a wrong opinion than they do actually busting the people that are causing the crime. That, 2 to 5, I'd say 2%, but some of these people they're bringing in aren't the greatest people. Maybe 5% of the population in England gots to go. And I agree with Sargon, those people have whole ass countries they came from. They could take their cash and prizes and probably live like a king in their home country. But Okay, this guy here, William, you're full of shit. I remember when if you weren't towing the line, like Christian, or let's say someone was fucking gay or whatever, you know, whatever hole or pole you like, I don't give a shit. If you weren't towing the line and being like, yeah, I remember the religious pearl clutchers. It wasn't just like the far off parts of Texas or the Midwest. I remember this even on the West Coast. These moral authoritarians in your face telling you how you're supposed to live your life. Hell, there was whole country songs, rock songs about telling people off. Like, hey, if I want to drink and sleep with this woman, it's my God. Even back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, basically telling these moral busybodies to mind their own fucking business. And those busybodies are now replaced by the far left. So make no mistake, I recognize that the far left is the newer version. But SJW Classic was the religious right. So don't even try to fucking lie to me about that. I was there. Like, I look at this situation and like, I would just love it if everybody would be kind of classic libertarian. Just let, hey, low taxes and let other people do what they do. As long as they're not hurting anybody else, it's none of your fucking business. But no. The problem is most people are weak, pussified people. And they feel really strong when they have a mob. Alone, those people wouldn't say a word, but they get a big crowd together and they're ready to burn some witches, do whatever. They're willing to do what the fuck ever. Because they all agree. Now, we just dealt with the left version of that, but I remember when the right was that way. And I would just like a world where we don't have to listen to either one of them. If you want to be religious, be religious. If you want to be some rainbow colored thing, be that. But just you do your thing and stop shoving your tail feathers in everybody else's face. But yeah, as far as England, what's the plan? What's the fucking plan? Because bringing in a bunch of inbred Pakistanis or people from India or any of that crap, no offense, I don't think that, people from India are necessarily bad people. They got some interesting history. And some of the people from Africa, they've got some interesting culture. But why is it that it's somehow people accept, instead of fixing the second and third world to be first world, we got to bring down the first world? We got to bring down, it's Corgi. We got to bring down the first world. And I just don't see long-term how that helps GDP. Maybe, and like I said earlier, and I know this pisses people off, maybe the objective is to get people so pissed off that they'll accept any level of authoritarianism. They'll sign away their rights just to have a moment's peace. That's my theory. All right, I'll read this one last comment. I was there too, bro. The religious right was trying to censor music, but you didn't hear Jesus. Oh, bull fucking shit. Bullshit. I remember when people were like, well, we got to pray, or you got to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Or if you were some counterculture type of thing, you're getting your ass beat. I remember one of the guys I went to school with was one of the first kids that, before there were goth kids, he was wearing spikes and leather. Hell, I used to wear a jester's hat. And fucking like a leather vest. And one day I said to him, I said, man, it's kind of cool. You got a few other people kind of doing your style. And he's like, fuck those people. Where were they when I was getting beat up by the jocks? Do you think that the moral majority back then didn't fucking throw their weight around? I don't know who you're fooling, dude. They tried to censor music. They tried to censor movies. They censored TV. They told who you can sleep with, how you can sleep with them. They said, how you're going to live your life. We want this Christian. And you know what? I would like it if those people could go out and build their own little communities. Build their own goddamn communities where they can have their own little religious thing and do their own taxation and take care of their own roads. And if it turns out it's better, more people will gravitate to it. But instead, we're stuck in this whole thing. We're all forced to live together. And in that respect, then they decide, well, there's enough of us to force you to do what you do. So you end up silencing people to where they can't actually live the way they want to live. Like, these are the same people, the Christian conservatives, wacky tobacco. Oh my God, marijuana. Oh, the devil's lettuce. I remember those motherfuckers. I remember the drug war. Oh, yeah, never mind. Baby Bush, yeah, my daddy was president. His 2 fucking wars. Yeah, that was about the last of the heyday of the religious right. People were so pissed off about how bad the right wing had screwed up that they were more than happy to vote for Obama. Obama looked like progress. Yeah, I remember that. And it's just funny to me how people just seem to be like, oh, no, they weren't as bad as the authoritarian left. You know what it is? We were all younger back then. And because we were younger, we survived it. We can kind of look back and be like, yeah, things were really good back then. And they were kind of good. You know, they were. But if I'm being real about it, yeah, the same type of asshole was on the religious right that is the authoritarian left. They're the same fucking people. They're the same people. People that could say whether you could work a job, whether you could get hired. They could discriminate and decide whether you're going to be able to get a loan for your house. Fuck, my mom was a single parent, had to work to pay for everything, and they made it fucking nightmarishly hard for her to get a loan. So I don't know what fucking copium you're smoking, brother. But yeah, I think it might scare a lot of you that yes, you guys could become the very fucking people you hate. We're not as bad. No, we're not as bad. No, you're the same fucking people. Weak groups of people that get together in a mob and then suddenly they're the strongest people you ever seen. Anyhow, take it easy. Peace.